Pretty much all main antagonists in Metal Gear Rising follow the criteria of a thoroughly written and morally composite boss, but one of them stands in a very peculiar place. Although he has little actual writing and is probably the least complex character in the entire game, Sundowner takes a considerably large spotlight in our journey's story. Before taking a closer look at him though, we must first indulge into a little bit of backstory. Sundowner grew up in a poor farming family in Alabama, and since he had no money to get a proper education, he enlisted in the army, where he took part in conflicts like the invasion of Panama, the Gulf War, the Iraq War, and Afghanistan. After having dropped out of official military service by 2008, he joined and worked for various private military companies, PMCs for short. After an improvised explosive left him out of battle, he came back to the scene, shortly after gaining a cybernetically enhanced body. Throughout his career, Sundowner has always been known for his unhealthy appetite for unrelenting violence and superfluous bloodshed. After developing a habit of leaving rivers of blood upon his fallen enemies, making the scene look almost like a red sunset, he earned his now infamous pseudonym, Sundowner. He was even investigated by the US Army for several accounts of war crimes such as desecration of remains and torture of POWs, although he never was prosecuted. Sundowner as we see him in the game isn't vastly different from that too. His few character traits that we get to experience are, again, an obsession with unnecessary bloodshed and murder, and a complete disregard for any kind of moral code of conduct. He openly refers to himself as an honest warmonger, and constantly pushes an ideology of accepting the fact that conflict is a part of human nature, and that people should embrace it rather than look down upon it. He is also subject to a great deal of flanderization, a phenomenon in writing which takes a key's characteristics and expands and exaggerates them for either a comedic or story-related purpose. This of course refers to his inherently cruel and brutal nature, which has been expanded and warped to a greater extent. Sundowner is also a fitting example of the psychopathic man-child trope. He has overly simplistic views of the world and human nature, and imagined his unrealistic solutions to be the answer to the ails of the world, that being re-establishing a war economy that by his words would make the world a better place in the end. He seems and is superficially powerful and cruel, but in the end has extremely simple or unrealistic motivations or worldviews. By letting these be his only major character traits, Sundowner is written as an extremely flat and two-dimensional character. There is almost nothing more to him other than him being overly cruel and violent, and having little to no regard for human life and any kind of moral principles. He doesn't fret at all about committing heinous acts or war crimes himself, and not even about forcing kidnapped children to do so, even if in VR. While other villains have even a hint of a moral code or some more complex underlying values and ideals, like for example Monsoon thinks that, or Blade Wolf who, in the end Sundowner just boils down to,
I fucking love war! I wanna fucking kill people for money and destroy cultures and history, Jack!
Even his weapon choice tells us a lot about what kind of fighter he is. He wields two custom-tailored high-frequency machetes, a crude weapon often associated with cold-blooded killers like Jason Voorhees, which really fits into Sundowner's signature image of a bloodlusting murderer. His set of explosive shields is also a staple of his design. While many players think of these shields as a cowardly crutch to help him fight, I think that this helps shape his character so much better. Sundowner doesn't care if he must use quote-unquote crutches or even borderline cheat to win. He just wants to murder you by all means necessary. If this isn't evident enough, he uses two entire helicopters to help him try to bring you down. Now, you may think that such a two-dimensional character, let alone boss, would be very dull and boring to fight or even interact with in the game, but you couldn't be more wrong. In fact, in the setting of Metal Gear Rising's storyline, where every boss has a complex set of ideals and values that define their fighting cause, Sundowner acts as a complete break from all of that, with his ideology being Geneva Convention, more like Geneva Suggestion, Lamau. It's almost fun to fight a boss that is evil for the sake of being evil, as history has taught us. Sundowner has no underlying tones of fighting for justice or any of that nonsense. He just wants to kill you because he can. I'd really like to hear your opinions on this, so be sure to comment down below on what you think about Sundowner and his character writing. Anyway, this was Cold Brew, thank you so much for watching, and until next time. Peace.